Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to Friday Night Twilight. If you're looking for vampires, you're not going to find them here. Instead, we are playing Twilight 2000 by Free League Publishing. This is a wargame RPG that's set in a world where the Soviet Union never collapsed, and theoretically, World War III has started. When we did this for my War Room playlist, for my War Room list earlier this year, we started this playthrough with a conference in Sweden with a fairly short stream where I wanted to get a story hook all set up. We had a conference in Sweden that ended up getting attacked. So we're going to pick up from that. We ended up picking up quite the crew from that, patching everybody together. So let's go ahead and let's see, I'm just trying to figure out who these are. Okay, so we've got our new 5 characters here. So let's go ahead and meet them. So joining the squad, we've got a doctor by the name of Dr. Lucas Henriksen. He's a Swedish doctor, aged 48, who is a trauma surgeon who is in attendance at the conference. He's a veteran trauma surgeon from Gothenburg. Lucas has extensive experience in field hospitals and disaster response. He was a keynote speaker at the conference discussing triage and emergency medical care in war zones. So I will mention that the entire squadron is in Stockholm, which was the original site of the conference. He was sitting next to our doctor at the conference. He was sitting next to Bones, got caught in the blast, but only minor injuries. So we'll probably need him as we're dealing with everything in Stockholm. Then a friend for Lucas, who is also at the conference, is a doctor by the name of Dr. Isabella Duarte, also known as Izzy. Brazilian, age 42. She's an epidemiologist and a public health specialist. Born and raised in Sao Paulo, Izzy spent most of her career working for international health organizations with disease outbreaks and conflict zones. She and Lucas were previous friends as they met years ago while responding to a cholera outbreak, and they built a strong professional and personal friendship. Izzy respects Lucas's skill, but isn't afraid to call him out when they need to. What brings her in is Izzy was also at the conference and planned to catch up with Lucas before the attack. And they might have been lightly injured. It sounds, well, we'll go with that she was fairly injured. We'll see how she interacts with Bones. Then another friend, we've got a major in a military field surgeon from the Polish army, Major Anton Grigorovich. Spent most of his career on the front lines, working as a battle surgeon in conflict zones. Met Lucas and Izzy during a joint humanitarian operation in Eastern Europe, where they bonded over shared experiences. He's seen the worst of humanity, but is committed to saving lives. Okay. And then somebody outside of that, we've got a sergeant in the Swedish Home Guard, Sergeant Eric Nystrom. And I'm probably going to start butchering all these pronunciations. He's a career soldier in Sweden's Home Guard. He was stationed in Stockholm as routine security operations when the bombings hit. He wasn't at the conference himself, but he was nearby and got caught in the blast, with his unit scattered and communications failing, so he's basically been separated by his unit. He's got to rely on his own instincts to survive. Okay, we'll see how events unfold, and we've also got the keynote speaker from the conference, Dr. Aisha Nawaz, Pakistani, specializing in emergency medicine and crisis response. She's a globally recognized expert in emergency medicine. She's worked in war zones, refugee camps, and disaster-stricken areas for decades. She delivered the keynote address on the future of crisis response and mass casualty events. Survived the blast with moderate injuries, but she's still determined to help everybody. And I'm keeping on the... Okay. We're going to have some interesting stories with the dynamics of this group. But let's jump into it. And our first order of business is we need to set a little bit more background. So last time we got together for Twilight 2000, we were picking up the pieces from the attack at the conference. So our first order of business, I think, should be to determine if Sweden is under martial law after that or not. From there, we might be able to flesh it out. So the way we're going to do that is we've got an encounters deck here that we could normally use for factions, that we could use for encounters, but I'm interested in the suits on the deck. It might be a little bit hard to see, but there are suits. So, for instance, this is a 3 of diamonds. when we're using it for oracle purposes. So the way we'll consult this for the oracle is we'll draw a random card. I'll give this a few shuffles on camera so you guys can see I'm not up to any funny business here. We can use the suits to help determine what, actually the colors of the suits to help determine what the answer to the question is. And the way I normally do suits when I'm consulting the deck for an oracle is black is yes, red is no. So our first question here, in the wake of the attack on Stockholm on the conference, is Sweden under martial law? So black is yes, red is no. That's a spade, so yes, Sweden is under martial law. Okay? Which means we can assume Stockholm is as well. The question is, what brought Stockholm to martial law? Has there been a separate attack? Like, is this attack part of a bigger conflict? That'll be our next question. Once again, black is yes, red is no. Black again, so yes, this is part of a bigger conflict of some kind. The question is, what is the conflict? Presumably it's going to be, well, it's probably easy to say that this is the start of World War III. Actually, that's probably a good question. Is this the start of World War III? Or is this part of a prospective Third World War? I'm going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Actually, I already put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Never mind. So we'll go to the Oracle once again, see if this is part of a prospect of World War III. Red. So no, this doesn't look like it's part of World War III, but we know so far that Sweden is under martial law, and there's a bigger conflict going on. I think our only thing we can do now... Actually, let's have an encounter in Stockholm. We'll see what we can do in here. So what you may have been noticing as well is as I've been drawing cards for the Oracle, you might also see... I hope if I turn the light on behind the camera. There we are. You might have also seen some possible encounters that we could have if we're drawing from this deck as we've been drawing from the deck for an oracle. But we're going to draw a card from the deck to have an encounter. So let's see what we get here. We have a watch your step. Uh-oh. We've got an old industrial area with low buildings, overgrown and riddled with bullets. An area of 5x10 hexes is mined. If the PCs back out, we'll need to find another way forward. If they're on foot or in an off-road vehicle, they can keep moving, but have to choose another hex side on the travel map to exit from. So let me see if I can find... That's page 68 of the player's manual, which hopefully has been separated out. 68. Okay, so we need to find looks like there's a trees map here. So bear with me while I see if I can find that map. Not that one. Not this one. Not here. At least I'm hoping there's a... What did it say? 5x10 hexes. Okay, so, I bet it's referencing that for an area of 5x10 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it must be referencing that. So what map do we want to be hexed? Or do we want to be not hexed? I'm so used to magical RPGs that I automatically go to magic. So what map do I want to be mined? Ooh. So, actually, next question I want to ask, we've got to watch your step here. So another question I want to ask, just to figure out what kind of map we have, is are we still in the city proper, or are we potentially on the outskirts? So I'll frame it to the oracle and ask, are we still in Stockholm proper? Black is yes once again, and it's a yes. So we still are in Stockholm proper, which means I think I want an urban map of some kind. So I think we will go with, I think we're going to use this map, and I'll zoom in on that. I'll use a different chit to denote our squadron. Actually, we'll use different chits for everybody in the squadron. We need a total of 6. Right? Bones plus 5. Okay. So let's see if I've got numbers here. I do. Perfect. All right. So 0-1 is going to be bones. I'm just looking at the numbers I've got here off camera. 5 for Lucas. 6 for Izzy. Let's see. 8 for Anton. 9 for Eric. And 10 is Aisha. So everybody walks up into essentially still the ruins of the city. Next question I think I want to put here is, as a member of the Swedish National Guard, does Sergeant Nystrom know would he know where the mines are? Familiar with Sweden's terrain and survival techniques. How do I want to roll that? Well, how do I want to roll this to see if I can figure out if we know where the mines are? Let's see. So I think the way I want to roll this, so they come up on the minefield, and Sergeant Nystrom, does he know where the mines are? That'll be our first question, and I think we're going to roll a... actually, let's just put that to the oracle. Does he know where the mines are in Stockholm? Or maybe they were put in recently before he got separated? So does he know where the mines are? Black is yes once again. That's red. So Nystrom doesn't know where the mines are. Presumably these mines must have been put in fairly recently. Probably in the immediate aftermath of the attack, I think, the mines would have gone in. Mines went in recently after the attack. So I think they're all hesitant. Actually, they're trying to get out of here. So an old industrial area with low buildings. Okay, so actually this map works pretty well for that. I was going to put that to a die roll, but I don't think we need to do that. And I have a feeling I'm going to get to a point here where I'm going to wish I had somebody who spoke Swedish as a first language in chat, or who can comment and weigh in on some of the pronunciation of these Swedish cities, because my pronunciation is likely to be absolutely horrendous. Anywho, so actually the squad is all coming in on the same map, and I think as Nystrom admits to the group that he doesn't know where the mines are, there's definitely a hesitation to try to traverse it. But the question I think I want to put here next is this going to be the fastest way out of the city? I don't think I want that as an oracle question just yet. So roll 2 base dice of the type. Okay. Alright, the strength of an explosion is measured in its blast power. Okay, so we're going to have to be very careful going through these mines if Nystrom doesn't know where they are. So what do we want to do with this? Again, the goal here... Actually, that could be a good question to put in. If Nystrom doesn't know where the mines are, why doesn't he know where the mines are? Would he even know if they were mined? I think he's realizing that he's been totally cut off from communication with the home guard, so I don't know if he... Okay, yeah, his radio is non-functional, so yeah, I don't think he would have any idea about any mines in here. So they probably just try to start moving through. When an explosive detonates. So it seems like we're going to try to start moving through this, because I think the general plan here is they want to get out of Stockholm. The question is what direction... Actually, let's figure out what direction they're coming at this from. I was assuming they're coming at it from the top of the map, but it's entirely possible they might be coming at it from... It's possible they might be coming at it from a different side, wanting to go in a different direction. So... let's use the Oracle, and this time we're going to be interested in the suits. So the way we're going to do the suits is we're going to go spades to the north, spades from the north, clubs from the east, hearts from the south, diamonds from the west. So this time we're interested in the suit. It's a heart, so we're coming at this from the south. So we're actually down here. And what kind of skill are we going to want to roll as we see if we... well, actually, is it going to be a detonation check? No. I was thinking maybe a detonation check, but there's nothing here for that. What would we want to roll? Check that. Number of landmines. Right, so that would be a tech roll, potentially, which is... So probably a tech roll to avoid to disarm the mines, which a tech roll is under intelligence, but I don't think any of our crew has much to speak of for any kind of tech. Oh, actually, strike that. Nystrom does have a C in that, so... Intelligence, he would be rolling D8, D8, trying to disarm these mines. Well... First, we'd have to see if they find a mine. So I think there's definitely some argument, but who's going to win the argument? Are they going to try to traverse the minefield, or are they going to go in another direction? So let's put that to the Oracle as well, to see if they want to go through. Because I think right now they're trying to get out of Stockholm and try to get out of the chaos of things right now. Maybe figure out what's happening. So let's see if they're even going to try to go into this minefield. That's a black, so yes, they are going into this minefield. Maybe Nystrom thinks there's still something in the... Maybe he still thinks there's something in the rubble of the conference that they can get to try to put some of their stuff, to try to put at least a radio together to get that working again, and maybe get communications working again. So that is what we are going to go with. So everybody's going to try. Is he the only one that's got any kind of tech skill? Sure looks like it to me. So how do we want to do this? I think our first order of business is kind of perking everybody up to see if there's any kind of morale. Well, would it be morale necessarily, or... Yeah, maybe it's Nystrom trying to get everybody moving here. So persuasion... Ugh, he's going to be terrible at persuasion, trying to get people moving. So... Actually, I think everybody's going to move and probably try their hands at tech rolls to see if they're able to... Actually, would it be tech rolls or... There's got to be something here for... Probably survival is what I'd want to roll to see if they set off the mines. Yeah, that might be the best idea. So I think we will have Bones take his step first. He's going to move up one, see if there's a mine there, and he's going to roll. What were we saying? No, I don't think it was survival. It was going to be... We were going to roll recon, I think. So he's got D12, D6 in recon. And the way he's going to roll for that... D12, D6. So the way we're rolling for that is he's got to roll at least a 6 on one of these dice. And I think if we're going to go with... I see a burst here, which gives me an idea that if either one of these is a natural 1... He's just going to set off the mine. He's going to find a mine and set it off. I'll try to stack the rest of the squad back up. Of course, that's going to mean everybody else gets caught in the blast, potentially. Actually, that's probably a good question. Is Bones' first move, is there a mine? So everybody's moving very slowly. So we'll put that to the Oracle. And yes, there is a mine. Does he set it off? He doesn't set it off. Well, actually, there is a mine, but he avoids setting it off, just barely, and that D12 was a 2. Remember, a natural 1 would just set it off. So we know this hex, well, this hex has got a mine in it, and it looks like that's the only way through, because we can't really go toward the building. So I think our next move is going to be... Our next move is going to be with Lucas. So Lucas is going to step in. There's number 5. So everybody wants to move very slowly here, stick together. We know there's a mine. Does he set it off? Lucas is recon. Actually, Lucas, we were rolling... we were rolling recon. So Lucas's recon is under intelligence. He is a D12, D8. That's a 6. He's able to avoid it as well. So he avoids it. Izzy moving next. Izzy's recon is a... Does Izzy have recon? She does. Izzy is a... That's intelligence, which is A, so she's also a... Actually, hold on. Yep, okay, so everybody's medical professional of some kind. So Izzy is a D12, D8 as well. That's an 8. She's clear as well. Next, we'll send Anton in. So he's number 8 in the group. Yep. We know there's a mine there, so we'll see if he sets it off. No, he's able to avoid it very easily. Actually, I'm wondering if maybe if one of them avoids setting it off, maybe they all avoid setting it off. So I think that's what we're going to go with here. So it's almost almost the idea of one being able to follow in the steps of everybody else. I think that's what we'll go with here. So, yeah, we're going to change that up. And, which means we'll send our best recon person into that. So, let's see. Our best recon is Intelligence B. Okay, so Anton is absolutely horrendous at... Okay, looks like our best recon is actually probably... Our best recon looks to be Izzy at the rate we're going, so I think Izzy is going to start making all of our checks for recon to try to get through these mines. So we'll see if Izzy sets off. Actually, first let's see if there's a mine on this hex. Maybe whoever mined this didn't have enough time to set everything. There's no mine here, so never mind. We'll go for Hex 3, which they're trying to get back into the conference. Putting it to the Oracle. There's a mine in this one. Do they set it off? And a natural 1 will override any kind of success. Ooh, that's a natural 1. So that's actually going to set it off. Which means now we've got to roll for damage. Roll 2 base dice of the type corresponding to the modified blast power once for each person within range of the explosion. So since that was the primary, that's where they were at. Since everybody was on foot, everybody is going to take the brunt of the blast. Okay. Blast inflicts 3 points of damage. Okay, so let's see how much damage everybody takes. And since we were right in the middle where it went off, everybody rolls d12. So we roll this for 2 d8s are rolled and both come up. I just want to make sure I'm understanding something here. Okay. So we didn't have any kind of protection. So let's see how much damage we're taking from this. So we roll 2 base dice of the type corresponding to the modified blast power once for each person within range of the explosion. Oh, so we roll for everybody, which also indicates the base. If one or more targets is rolled, the target is hit by the blast. Damage done is increased by 1 for each additional rolled beyond the first. Alright, so we're rolling for everybody here. So Bones gets hit first. Bones takes his hit first. And we will roll for the where the damage hits as well. Yowza. Okay, that seems like it's going to be problematic. So let's see. So we took both targets. Both come up targets. Blast inflicts 3 points of damage. So it's actually base damage 4 plus 2, so that's 6 damage to the legs. Yikes. Which seems like it's going to be very much enough for a critical injury. This may be a short session of Twilight 2000. Let's see. Do the effects. Reducing the damage to 1. Would have suffered 3. So it looks like you take critical damage. Combat and damage. Critical injuries. The question is, what triggers critical injuries? I mean, 6 damage to the legs probably would just do it. Exceeds the weapon's crit threshold. Okay, normal damage points, yada yada yada, when attacking an enemy. Critical injuries table can be found on page 76, or the referee's screen, which I've got off shot here. Okay, when attacking an enemy, which we didn't do that. 6 damage to the legs. If the damage exceeds the weapon's crit threshold by 2 steps. Okay, so it looks like the crit threshold was a 3. What does it mean by 2 steps, though? Roll 2d10s and use the highest result. Okay, so crit threshold of 3. Okay, so 6 damage to the legs, which is enough for a crit injury. So to the legs, we're going to roll a... Here we go. We're going to roll a d10 to see how bad that damage is. That is, is that a 9? Yes, that is a 9. That seems problematic. So critical injury to the legs. Arterial bleeding. So arterial bleeding, which means it's possibly lethal. So Bones is going to have to make a death save here in a second once we get through everybody else to being possibly lethal. Then we'll roll for Lucas next. So another D12, D12. That is, whoa! That is 4 damage to the head. Uh-oh. Four damage to the head, which is probably not a critical injury. Must make an immediate coolness under fire save. So that's not a... So shrapnel probably just... So Bones also fell down automatically. Lucas took 4 damage to the head, which is not a whole lot of fun. And I'm trying to... Let's see if I can figure out what a step actually is. It's not completely explaining that. Okay, critical injuries. We're still not hit again. Okay. So he's taken 4. So Lucas took 4 damage to the head, which I don't think is enough for a critical injury, but he's not in very good shape at all, let's face it. So shrapnel must have come up and knocked him for a loop. And going over to Izzy next. Let's see what kind of damage Izzy's taking. 3 damage to her arm, actually 4 damage to her arms. So maybe Lucas shielded her from the blast, and she actually drops everything. Let's see if that was Izzy. Yeah, this is going to be a short playthrough, I think. Anton is also taking a big hit. Let's see, that is another 5. That's 5 damage actually to the arms, which automatically causes him to drop everything. Small number of injuries that could kill you outright. Alright, so Anton is definitely in rough shape. Sergeant Nystrom. Yikes, that is 6 damage to the torso. That's definitely a critical injury. Let's see, torso. Let's see, that's a 1. Snapped collarbone, so his mobility is -1. And last but not least, Aisha. Yep. As she takes 4 damage to the legs as well. And falls over. Yikes. So now we've got to make a death save for... Let's make a death save when the listed time limit is passed. So his injury was arterial bleeding on the legs, which after stretch... Alright, so actually now he's got to make a death save, a save for stamina. Alright, a stamina save is going to be, yikes, D8, D6. So D8, D6. Does Bones make his death save? And actually, it's probably not going to matter here anyway. Bones does make his death save, but he is not in very good shape at all. So Bones makes his death save. Yikes, they're kind of trapped here. So, So they got caught in a minefield. This will probably be a fairly short encounter, as now they're realizing they're trapped and injured all over again. And now they don't have any medical supplies to try to put themselves back together from getting hit again from getting trapped in this minefield and basically getting incapacitated again. So after the conference knocked them for a loop, this has done it again. Question is, are we going to... I don't think we're going to continue tonight, because getting rocked like that is probably a good stopping point, figuring that maybe the Swedish army will have to come bail them out after the conference attack. But we may actually not be doing much with Friday Night Twilight, because I was hoping to make this a regular thing, but instead the squad just ended up getting knocked into a minefield, which is kind of the nature of the beast. Everything goes brutally in Twilight 2000, from what I hear. So I think that's where we're going to wrap up tonight's stream on Twilight 2000. I definitely want to do more with this game, because I like the idea of having an alternate history world to play around with Twilight 2000 being based on a world where the Soviet Union never collapsed and theoretically World War III starting. So there's definitely potential here for me to dig into this game. Plus, again, as I mentioned, nice to have a war game-based RPG. So I've of course got all my Call of Cthulhu stuff, all of that I like to do, 5 Parsecs from Home I like to play. Even some solo D&D on occasion. Something like this, though, really lets me kind of dig into a very different story. So we'll probably do more with this at some point, and we might have a different crew that we play around with. So we'll call that a stream here, we'll wrap this up, and we'll get into the weekend. We've got a good weekend of content coming up on the channel. Tomorrow morning, Mystical Munchies will conclude out of the Star Wars Life Day cookbook as we make the drink, Bantha Milk Hot Chocolate. Also tomorrow afternoon, we're going to start knocking off some rust with my hockey systems as we play a game of Inside the Crease Hockey by Inside Sports Games. And Saturday afternoon, actually probably Saturday evening, we're going to have Pina with Phoenix for May 2025. I was trying to think what month it was, but yeah, it's May 2025. As for Sunday, I'm still going back and forth on what I want Sunday's game going to be. We'll see what I decide to do there. I'll know by the time I go live with Pina with Phoenix tomorrow evening. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications to get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.